The 2021 Philadelphia Eagles finished the year with a 9-8 record and lost in the wild card round of the playoffs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They clearly were not happy with how their season ended and attacked this offseason in a way we have never seen them do before. General Manager Howie Roseman gets a lot of shit from Eagles fans, but he did everything he could and then some to ensure they not only get to the playoffs this year, but win not just one playoff game, but multiple playoff games. And there is a lot to like about the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, and we will break everything down in today's video. And there is one big thing that has to happen for them for their season to be a huge success. And without further ado, let's begin. And we are going to start today's video by taking a quick glance at their schedule, and it is important to note they have a Week 7 bye, which is fairly early for the now 17-game schedule. But this team's first 6 games are not too bad compared to some other teams' first 5 or 6 games, and the worst part about this portion of the schedule is the trip to the desert to go play Kyler Murray and company. And fortunately for Philadelphia, DeAndre Hopkins will still be suspended at this point in time, so they will get to play them without one of their best players on the roster. There's honestly no reason this team can't be either 4-2, 5-1, or even 6-0 through this stretch, as all of these games are very much winnable for the Eagles. Will they be 6-0 is another thing, but it isn't impossible. A lot of their success is going to rely on quarterback Jalen Hurts, who will need to take a step this year if the team has any deep postseason aspirations. And the Eagles are doing everything they can to make Hurts' success become a reality, as they not only drafted former Heisman Trophy winning receiver Devontae Smith in 2021, but they traded for two-time 1,000-yard receiver A.J. Brown this offseason, then immediately gave him a 4-year, $100 million extension. And like a lot of younger quarterbacks in the NFL and how their careers usually start, Jalen flashed at times in 2021 in big ways that legitimately make you think he can not only be a long-term starter, but be a quality long-term franchise quarterback. However, there were times where he didn't play good, and the inexplicable loss to the Giants in MetLife Stadium is a perfect example of this, when they only put up 7 points as a team in a game where Jalen Hurts completed less than 50% of his passes, threw for just 129 yards and 3 interceptions. But the fact of the matter is the Eagles will need more from Hurts this year. He can't have those types of games in 2022, and to be fair, they were few and far between. But for a franchise that has in recent years been notorious for not having great receivers, and certainly not been great at drafting receivers, see JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf in 2019, and of course Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson in 2020, they have finally figured it out. And it isn't out of the question for the Eagles to have 2 1,000-yard receivers in 2022 in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And there is more to the Eagles than just the offense and Nick Sirianni's play calling with running the football and the whole nine, so now we will discuss the defense, and it starts up front. They have a good defensive line, which is of course led by the 6-time Pro Bowler Fletcher Cox, who will turn 32 in December. They also quietly have one of the better defensive tackles in football, and that's really putting it kindly, in Javon Hargrave. Hargrave was a 3rd-round pick by the Steelers back in 2016, and with Cam Hayward and TJ Watt on that team, it's pretty easy to be either not mentioned or forgot about pretty quickly. But Javon made the first Pro Bowl of his career in 2021 with a 7.5 sack season from the interior, along with leading the team in tackles for a loss with 9, and along with leading the team in quarterback hits with 18. This all goes without mentioning Josh Sweat, the older brother of current Washington Commanders pass rusher Montez Sweat, who, like Hargrave, had 7.5 sacks in 2021 and made his first Pro Bowl as well. And they added a pretty big player in the first round of the draft in April of this year in Jordan Davis, and quickly this is starting to remind me of a former Eagles team that had pass rush on pass rush on pass rush. That, of course, would be the 2017 Eagles when they won the Super Bowl, and a big reason why they won the Super Bowl that year, though not solely, shout out BDN, was because of their rotational pass rushers that would come in big situations fresh off the bench because they ran 6 or 7 guys deep. Think Derek Barnett stripped 6 in the NFC Championship game against the Vikings when Patrick Robinson ran it the whole way back. They also have Brandon Graham, who is now 34 years old and is coming off of a torn Achilles. I worry about Graham both at that age and at a position that is extremely tolling, coming off of the severity of an injury as a torn Achilles is, because defensive end isn't a position where you take plays off or where you get hit once every 4 or 5 plays. This is a position where you get hit time and time again, play after play. I didn't forget about him as much as it is. I don't think he will be the player he was in his prime. He still provides a lot of value as a rotational rusher, and I think he can be a key contributor for the 2022 Eagles pass rush. I just don't think at 34 years old, coming off of a torn Achilles, to expect Brandon Graham to be a Pro Bowl pass rushing defensive end and to lead the team in sacks or anything like that. And one of my favorite prospects in the entire 2022 draft, well, two really, was Georgia's Nakobe Dean, who the Eagles drafted in the 3rd round, and if Nakobe stays healthy, this will be one of the biggest draft steals in recent memory. We will get to one of my other favorite prospects in a minute. Nakobe will walk into a situation where he will get to play behind a big defensive line and Pro Bowl caliber players in the aforementioned Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, and former national champion teammate Jordan Davis. And with those guys clogging gaps and lanes, I fully expect Nakobe to be a menace in this defense at some point in time. Whether that's in his rookie season or in year 2 or 3 is to be determined, but in terms of a quarterback having good receivers to throw to being critical for their success, that's the situation Nakobe has on defense. I also believe he is a sleeper to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year. The Eagles also signed Hassan Reddick this offseason, who played his college ball in the same stadium the Eagles play in when he was at Temple, which of course is the Link. Reddick, to me, is a very underrated player and a guy who has notched 23.5 sacks over the past 2 seasons. The only thing that worries me with one of their better players on defense in Darius Slay is age. He is 31 years old and is coming off of a Pro Bowl year and has been a very good acquisition for the Eagles since trading for him back in 2020. But I love this defense, and with the acquisitions they made this offseason between both former Georgia Bulldogs in Davis and Dean, adding Hassan Reddick, and adding a player we haven't mentioned yet in corner James Bradbury, it's hard not to buy into the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. We glanced at the first 6 games of their schedule earlier, and now taking a look at the final 11, and this is another reason why I am considerably high on the Eagles this year compared to several other teams. You can reasonably think if a team like the Houston Texans, for example, plays in Buffalo this year, they are more than likely going to lose that game. But how many of these games do you truly think, looking at this schedule, that for sure in that type of scenario the Eagles are going to lose? To me, the answer is none. That also, by the way, does not mean they're going 17-0 or 16-1, because they will have a game or 2 or 3 where they simply don't play well, and that happens. The 2021 Rams lost by 17 points at home to the Arizona Cardinals last year, and the Jags even beat the Bills in 2021 as well. But the Eagles are a much better team now than they were last year, and even then they started out 2-5 and went 7-3 the rest of the way, and really you could argue 7-2, not including the Week 18 game against the Cowboys when the backups gave up 51 points to the Cowboys starters. I mean, that was expected to happen. So yes, the Eagles will have a game or 2 this year that they inexplicably lose. It happens. There's a reason that it's any given Sunday. But if they stay healthy, and if that bruising offensive line for the majority of the season stays healthy, and Jalen Hurts plays like the quarterback he's shown to be at times, in a good way that is, the Eagles can and will compete with anybody. If they have any hopes of a deep postseason run, which by the way is possible, I think they're going to have to win the division. Period. Even as much as I've praised the Eagles so far, I don't trust a Jalen Hurts-led team to win 3 road playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. You'd have to think they'd, in that scenario, go through Green Bay, go through Tampa, or go through the LA Rams. And if they had to go through all 3, I don't think they would win all 3 games. But that is a long, long way away, and the Eagles between now and January have a lot to look forward to and should have a very successful 2022 season, and I can't wait to see how they do. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it would be very much appreciated and help tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great rest of your day. Love you guys.